Welcome to this edition of Futurartist Records Presents. Today I've got a band from northern Colorado joining me, and they pull from the influences of folk, country, jazz, and bluegrass, just to name a few. Futurartist Records presents South to Cedars. Welcome, guys. Thanks for coming in.
Hello. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for making the trek down. I mean, coming from
thank you.
up north. So, well, why don't we start by introducing everybody? Tell us who you are and what you do in the band.
Okay. Well, I'm Shauna, and I'm the lead vocalist. I also do percussion, and I sort of manage the booking end of the band.
Cool.
And I am Ben. I play guitar, and I do most of the songwriting. I play harmonica, I sing some, and a bunch of other random stuff.
Cool. Cool.
Nice. I'm Jimmy, and I play bass and sing backup in the band.
And I'm Greg. I play fiddle, and I do some singing as well.
Cool. We'll definitely talk about this, but you're definitely a vocal band, which is amazing. I've seen you guys play, and it's great. Shauna and I have talked about this quite a bit, and I don't know if anybody else knows this, but we're going to bring it up right now. Are you a family band? I know, because of the age variance and the way you guys work together, and so do you get asked that a lot? And
We do, actually.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
we do get asked that question quite a bit, and I think
Take it, Mom.
it does. I think it does have to do with our age difference. There's at least 10 years between all of us. We have Jimmy back there keeping the average age of the band down, way down.
Oh, yeah.
So, but no, Ben and Greg and I have known each other for about, I guess, 7 or 8 years.
Okay.
And we've been making music together that entire time.
Cool.
I've known Jimmy probably 7 or 8 years, but he's only been with us for about 4 since this band has been in existence. And he actually came from the high school where I worked.
Oh, okay.
So he came highly recommended by one of the music teachers there who knew we were looking for a bassist, and we didn't act on that for a very long time. And then when we did, he managed to stay with us for 4 years or so.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, but no, we're not related, but we are very good friends. And
But you are a family as far as a band.
oh yeah,
So that's a trick question. See, you're-
Yes.
yes.
We're all essentially married to each other.
Right. Well, like it or not, right?
Yes.
How did the name come about? I know, Ben, you designed the logo, and we'll get to that in a little bit, but how did the name come about?
We searched for a name for a long time. Coming up with names is hard. We came up with a lot of great names, but then you do a Google search and find out that, yes, this name is taken by at least 20 other bands. So, so I think one random Wikipedia search, I came across this page on the Vicksburg Southern Railroad in Mississippi, and it ran north to Redwood and south to Cedars. And so, for whatever reason, south to Cedars kind of stuck with me, and I think enough of the other. If Shauna liked it, and if Shauna latches onto something, then that's always good.
You go for it?
Yes. So, so that's been our name, and I think it kind of means something different to each of us. You know, Shauna thinks of like Southern hospitality. I kind of think of going south, someplace serene or warm. Cedars is, you know, they're tall, impressive trees. They have staying power. They're, I don't know. I think Greg thinks of it as death. He's the oldest. He's the oldest member of the band. So,
I think about death a lot.
yeah. So yeah, it's unique and different. So
Now, kind of tying in, I'm going to pick on you for a second.
Sure.
Tying into that, have you been to the Virginia, or the Vicksburg
have I?
Southern Railroad?
You know,
Yeah.
no, I have
Yeah.
not. I haven't. I haven't even been to Mississippi.
Right.
So,
Right. That was going to be my next
so,
question.
yeah. I have ridden on a train before.
Okay, well, that's close enough. I looked some of that stuff up because I wanted to see if there was some historical background. It's really interesting how bands come up with names, and sometimes they just see something going on, and that's what we're going to call ourselves. You know, and other times they look for it, and it ends up having meaning, like with you guys. So you never know where that's going to come from.
Sure.
And to continue my picking on you, what does this logo represent?
Well, so this was our first take at the logo, and I think it's actually like pictures of like my guitar, the fiddle, and the bass, and then Shauna's the little songbird sitting on the branch there.
Okay.
So each part of it kind of represents us, and with South to Cedars, the trees in there. I don't know. It's
Cool.
That's our logo, right?
Yeah, no, that's cool. It's cool to get the backstory on that because some people might look at it and go, oh yeah, cool guitars.
We tried
You
to
know.
change it, and it didn't work out very well.
Right.
So we just,
Yeah.
well, we'll leave it for now.
Sure.
So if anybody has a great logo, we're open to ideas.
Right. Well, I think this works nicely. We had talked earlier before the show about your influences, and I've heard that you have lots of influences, and pulling from folk, pulling from country, jazz, bluegrass, but also from classic rock, from regular, rock. Why don't each of you name one or two influences that have weighed the most heavily on how you approach your music?
Well, I think for me, I grew up in a household that we mostly listened to country music. That's what my dad liked, but there were some hints of rock and roll every now and then, and I remember at a very young age really loving the Everly Brothers.
Okay.
And it was their vocal harmony that drew me in, and essentially I think that's where I learned to sing those harmonies. The harmonies come very easy for me, unless Jimmy writes something really weird that he wants me to sing. But in general, the harmonies come easy, and those harmonies, you find them in bands like the Eagles,
Yes.
and so many others that really feature that great vocal harmony, and so that's my influence, I think, for this as far as this band goes.
Cool.
Okay, so I tried really hard to think of one, and so the best I could do was narrow it down to two. One of my favorite songwriters and musicians is Elliott Smith, and I really like his fingerstyle and just his songwriting in general. But also, kind of like my playing with Shauna and Greg has been started more as a bluegrass, and so kind of the influence of like Tony Rice and doing some flat picking, and so kind of my style is an evolved, flat cross picking, finger picking style occasionally as bluegrass. So it kind of influences some of the songs a little bit, and so those are two of the many.
Right.
Yeah.
As a bass player, I'd probably have to say my biggest influence is somebody like Carol Kay. I think she was a master of playing tastefully. She knew when to. I appreciate the way she uses octaves a lot. She's also a pick player, like myself. I play bass with a pick. I play with a mandolin pick. She plays with a jazz guitar pick. There's different things you can do with your right hand to get different tones out of the bass. And because South to Cedars plays such kind of a wide variety of music, such a wide variety of originals and cover tunes, I took a lot of those cues from Carol.
Cool.
Well, over the last number of years, I mean, bluegrass and old-time music's probably been what I listen to the most. I think Old Crow Medicine Show is probably my favorite in that area, and my fiddle, I think, playing reflects their style a little bit. One other, maybe a little bit more spiritual influence is Robbie Steinhardt from Kansas. When I was in college, of course, Kansas was huge, and and as a violinist, you had to love the band with the violin.
Cool. With all the influences that you have and the sound that you have, I came up with my own opinion when I heard you, and I know a lot of people do because your sound is so unique. What genre do you consider yourselves to be? What do you think best describes your genre?
We generally say Americana, which is a bit of a catch-all.
Yeah.
As you said, folk and rock and bluegrass, alt country, indie rock.
Yeah.
I think a lot of our originals are kind of a blend of, to a certain extent, of all of those styles, and our covers kind of come out of there as well. We do songs by Brandi Carlile and Led Zeppelin. The Gramblers, the Decemberists, Wilco. So,
and that was something I found really interesting when I saw you guys play.
Right.
You were pulling from all these different groups, which is pretty cool.
Right. A lot of Americana bands kind of want to stay in one part of that genre, right? Or they just want to stay in bluegrass or alternative country or whatever, and we sort of play all over the place.
Yes, so
but truly
Americana.
Yeah,
because it does. It's all over the place,
Yeah.
which is cool. Yeah. That already makes you different than a lot of other bands. But what do you consider for yourselves? What makes you different than other bands? And what have your fans found interesting about that?
So
Trick question.
No. Well, one thing is, our vocal harmonies is something we really stress, and so a lot of people, our fans, come up and comment on just the different vocals, and we work very hard on them. Jimmy is a huge asset to the band because he's a vocal jazz major, and he does a great job helping us arrange. You sing this, and a lot of times we want to kill each other while we're learning it. But once it all comes together, it does have a cool impact, kind of some of the chords we can build and different things there vocally.
Yeah.
So.
Do you think that's what makes you stand out more than anything else, more than your wide variety of influence, or do you think it's a whole collection of things that makes you stand out?
I think it's a whole collection of things that makes us stand out. That's certainly one of them. Two-part vocal harmonies, when Shauna and Ben are singing lead, because Shauna and Ben sing lead most of the time. Two-part vocal harmonies, they can usually work out on their own. They kind of come naturally. But four-part vocal harmonies are a little bit more complicated. Those are the ones that 3 and 4-part vocal harmonies are a little bit more complicated to put together.
Yeah.
I take a lot of cues when we're doing 4-part harmony. I take a lot of cues from big band writing.
And that makes sense, yeah, because those harmonies were real nice.
The way a sax solo is arranged.
Yeah. I didn't know that.
Wow, we're learning.
Cool.
Yeah.
No, but as Ben said, Jimmy's been pretty instrumental in helping us arrange those 4 parts so that they're not just vanilla 4 parts.
Right.
You mean vocal?
Right.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No.
I think another thing that makes us unique is our take on covers. Especially when we kind of go out of we're an acoustic band, but so when we take on like covers of rock songs, we still stay pretty much in the acoustic range, and so and we work our arrangements around that. So you'll still get songs that might have an electric guitar lead, then will have an acoustic fiddle on it, and Ben's with his acoustic guitar as well. So it gives it and people really enjoy that and like that kind of the different take on these songs. So
when you take a song like "Kids Aren't All Right" by The Offspring, a punk tune, someone who listens to our genre would probably never listen to that song, or probably has never heard it, and yet we play it and we do it in our style, and people are like, "What is that? What I think it was?"
Right.
Yeah. So it's nice to be able to switch things up like that for the audience, to introduce them to music that they might not have heard otherwise.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you find that doing that, especially when, Greg, when you were talking about the electric guitar and having to sub, a different approach to that, is that really difficult, or does it come pretty easily?
It's you got to be creative and come up with something that we try not to be slavish. We to the originals. We try to make it work on what we're doing, and but make it exciting, make it vital, and make it fun for the audience. So
cool. I don't remember how many covers you played when I saw you, but I remember
we're about half and half.
Okay, because I remember going,
strike.
That's a different take on that. But it's cool because you're able to split the difference between people who want to go in knowing music and people who want to hear new music. And you're able to cross that over really nicely, I thought. Going in that same direction, what is your songwriting process? Doing half covers and half originals, how do you approach that?
So yes, for writing the originals, I'm a guitar player first, definitely singer second, and so my process is always just noodling on the guitar and coming up with parts and riffs and recording them in my phone, and then I do a lot of the writing lyrics, and a lot of times those come second, but try and just put ideas down in my phone and notes whenever inspiration strikes or whatever, and then pairing those together. And normally I'll do like I said, just a rough kind of recording and bring it to the band, and yay or nay, do you guys like this? And then from there, then we start working on instrumentation and trying to build vocal parts around it and things like that.
Okay. What usually comes first, the vocals or the instrumentation?
The instrumentation usually comes first. If we do songs with thick vocal harmonies, those usually are the cherry on top.
Gotcha. Okay. So you get all the foundation done, and then then worry about that. Okay.
That part takes the longest.
Sure. Yeah, that can be tricky, especially when you're doing 4-part and you want it to not sound the same in every single song. And for sure. Going in a different direction is still part of the songwriting process, I think, because it's something you have to consider going into performance or into the studio. What's the difference between, and this I kind of sprung on you last minute, so a lot of bands will go in with either the idea that they want their CD to sound just like their performance, or they don't want it to sound anything like their performance. So what's your take on that? How do you approach your recording compared to your live show?
Because our live show, I believe, is a lot different than what we do with our CD in the studio, especially with the different cover songs that we do. And we do a lot of different variety of even original songs, where some will be like more bluegrass featuring the fiddle, others will be more kind of subtle featuring Shauna's vocals, or like maybe a guitar riff or a part like that. And so I think when it comes to trying to do the CD, we try and do something that's cohesive. So whereas it represents the band, it represents kind of one aspect or portion of the band. And then, you will hear, we do some live percussion and drums. Shauna does, like a porch board bass drum, and I do a snare box. And so we have some of that, but we do on our recordings, we have been adding some drums and layering in some different guitars and things. And a lot of that is because that's what I hear when I write the song, and that's what we want to hear. But it's just a different experience, It's we work on the CD as this is one piece of art, and take it as it is. And then us as a live show, we try and be true to the CD, but at the same point in time, we're our own thing live as well.
Right.
So.
And there's only 4 of us. We can't possibly play all of those.
Parts.
Right.
No, we can't play all those instruments.
Yeah, and we like being a 4-part band too.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah. Do you feel like that gives you more freedom when you perform live, because you don't have to worry about the production that you did in the studio, so you can just have fun with
Yeah, a lot of times
the
the songs we start doing them live, and so they become their own thing live, and then they kind of grow and become their own thing when they get recorded.
Plus, being a 4-piece band like this, it lets us get into more venues that we can play that just don't have the space for full drum kit and so.
Yeah, there are a lot of smaller, intimate places that they can't have drums in there because they're just too loud or whatever. So by doing it this way, it sort of we can do either, right?
Yeah.
You saw, at the Dickens when we had a drummer behind us for a few songs, right?
Right.
So that doesn't happen all the time, but it was really it's fun to be able to have it.
Sure.
But
Let's touch on that for a second. You don't have a drummer normally live. You were paired at the Dickens with a band that was able to sit in with you and friends of you guys', which is awesome to see. But you usually use something completely different. Just touch on that and what the different approach is when you don't have a drummer, but you still want that percussion to keep the tempo, or just that to fill it in, or whatever you're looking for.
Right. So normally we have it's called a porch board. It's actually called a porch board bass, and it sits. We usually just use this as a prop.
Yeah.
We started out actually using this, but switched. It's a little easier to control the porch board, but we use that for that thump underneath, and shakers, tambourines. Sometimes for me, it's like trying to walk and chew gum.
She'll be singing.
I'll be singing, and I've got shaker in one hand, tambourine here, or even sometimes a mandolin and a tambourine and foot on the porch board. So,
Does it get interesting for the rest of you too when she starts trying to figure out, okay, which one's where? What's happening here?
She does a good job. It's like, it adds a lot what she does.
Because that's a lot to think about at one time. Shaker, steady rhythm, vocals.
You guys don't see me practicing in my basement.
Yeah. Ask her husband how great
My husband
it is.
thinks it's great. My husband will come downstairs. What are you doing?
Right.
Got arms and legs. And
Doesn't he
everything.
call them like your outside toys?
Yeah.
Right? That makes sense. Yeah.
Those aren't inside toys.
What is your favorite backstory to an original song?
So there's one song on the first album called Yellow Lines. That one comes from me going on a trip to Spokane with my girlfriend. I was going to Montana State in Bozeman, Montana at the time. So this was like a 5-hour trip over to Washington. And we went there for a weekend. We ended up breaking up at the end of that weekend, which was wonderful. And then we drove back together 5 hours. And so, there's a line in the song, like, staring at these 2 yellow lines, keeping you and I from making good time, and the conversation has run dry. And it was that inspired that song, and so.
I can only imagine how awful that was, because I just went on a 12-hour road trip with him, and we just talked the entire time.
Yeah.
A little bit different.
Yeah.
Anyone else have a favorite backstory to a song?
We have a new song coming out on our new album. I hope it makes it onto the new album. It's called October Flowers, and when Ben first played this, just the demo, the rough demo that he made of it, immediately I thought, oh gosh, this sounds just like my daughter's wedding. And the guys had played for the ceremony.
Oh, cool.
And then it was just a beautiful fall day, and immediately that's what came to mind. And it wasn't until after the song was over, and he said, well, so that was really inspired by Jess's wedding. And so,
Oh, wow, that's cool.
yeah. So when I hear that song, I just think about, all the people that were there that day, and what a beautiful day it was, and a lot of love there,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
a lot of good friends and family, and just absolutely perfect day.
Yeah. Does that make it easier to play those songs?
No.
I was wondering what his response was going to be to that one.
No. I don't know. That's an interesting question, but I think it just depends on the day with what song.
Sure.
If you have I know for me as a singer, I really have to somehow know what my connection is to it.
Right.
And there are often times when he said, well, do you want to know what it's about? And my first reaction is always, well, yeah, but it really matters what it is to me,
Right.
as I'm singing it. So it's funny that we talked about Yellow Lines, though. I had such a hard time learning that song until he told us what it was about.
Right.
It was just really
connection.
hard for me
Yeah.
to make the words. I just would forget.
Yeah.
The words are pretty simple, but I would forget what order. Sometimes I still forget what order.
Have you ever found that going into a song, you get a description of what it's about, and your perception wasn't the same, but you switch?
Yeah,
I think I
so.
do that writing songs. I'll
Okay.
say, oh, this is about this, and then I'll reflect and look back on it later and be like, oh, what if it was about this instead, and
right.
tweak some things a little bit.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
every song grows and evolves over a lifetime.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so being part of Colorado music, you and I have talked about this extensively. What are your thoughts on the Colorado music scene? It's a unique scene. You've got tons of talent, tons of outlets, and not a lot of bands know about a lot of the other bands a lot of times. And the support is hit or miss. I know you guys have great fan base, and other bands really struggle with that. So what are some of your thoughts on the Colorado music scene?
We've tried really hard to, make friends with other musicians. I think it's a process of just constantly trying to figure out, where you're gonna fit in.
Right.
But we also keep in regular contact with our fans. And we also have fans, people who started out as fans who are now friends. And then, there's so many wonderful venues here in Colorado. Colorado really extends with open arms to so many different genres.
Yeah.
So many different resources available to musicians, and including, these local radio stations who play local music or feature local music regularly. You guys,
Right.
really just reaching out and trying to showcase, music here in the state.
Yeah.
I think that those things are all really important, and those help make up, what a great music community we have here in Colorado.
Yeah. You mentioned all the different venues, and there are a lot of venues, and they pretty much run the gamut as far as size and capabilities and everything else. Like, what's your favorite gig? Your favorite gig setup, but then your favorite type of gig as well. Is that a really difficult
No,
question?
No, I think
There's
there's
so
been a lot of
many venues,
different favorite gigs and different styles. We played in some kind of very small kind of breweries or bars, but they have just a great kind of built-in crowd, or people that will have gotten to know us and come out. And so when you have people there that are there to see you, and it's packed, I mean, that's always a fun gig.
Yeah.
Somebody told me one time that, if you're playing in a brewery or you're playing in that kind of a place, that you're just background music. And that has never been our experience in the
Really?
in the breweries that we've played in. I don't think that we've ever really had that experience. But we also have loved, we love playing at the Dickens.
Yeah.
That's a great treat for us, the Walnut Room in Denver. This past summer was really kind of important for us because we got to play some bigger festival-style shows.
Cool.
It was particularly meaningful for me as a female to be featured in the Women of Summer concerts in Wellington,
yeah.
and to be featured with Bonnie and the Clydes. I've been a fan of Bonnie Sims for longer than we've had this band. And so to have that opportunity to share the stage with them was really special to me.
Yeah.
So
The breweries are kind of the backbone of our list of venues that we play at a lot. And breweries are great places to play because of all the stuff we've been talking about. It's a good mix of people who are there to see you and people who are there to drink beer. Colorado has lots and lots of those breweries,
Yes,
and they're very conducive to the kind of live music that we do. And so that's helped us out a lot.
As we've gone on over the years, we've built up a nice following in a number of the breweries and things. So it's very gratifying to have people coming back and bringing friends. And
Yeah.
So
Do you have any cult followers that show up at every show you do?
Timmy's mom and my dad, maybe.
Right.
No, but we actually do have a pretty sweet audience. We have, certain people that we know will always show up if we're in Fort Collins. We have certain people that we know will always show up if we're in Longmont.
Yeah.
It's nice that we're not, confined to just one town.
Right.
We seem to be able to pull an audience just about, wherever we are.
Cool.
But we also, we pay attention to the venues that we book. We want
There's a lot of homework behind it.
Yeah, there is a little bit of homework behind it. So.
Yeah. So what's next? What do you have going next?
Well, we're in the studio right now. We're working on our next full-length album, and
Cool.
so we're getting close to done tracking that, and then looking towards mixing and mastering that. So hopefully, sometime, hopefully in the first half of 2015, we'll have a new album out, and continuing to kind of book shows up and down the Front Range. We play all the way from Denver to Fort Collins, and even some up in the mountains and different places. So
Cool.
we're going to keep continuing to play out.
Good. I want to take 1 second. This was not part of the original plan, but you brought some great swag here. So I want everyone who's watching this show to pay attention to what you've got here. And you've got your first CD. I'm springing this on the camera, guys. I don't know if you can get this or not. This is their first CD.
Nice shiny
And
plastic.
nice and shiny. Does this help?
We'll insert a graphic.
They're laughing.
later, yeah.
Good stuff. We're going to be playing Yellow Lines during the credits.
Nice.
We talked a little bit about, so that'll be cool. And you guys have website. You're on Facebook. You're
We do.
all over the place.
Yep, southofcedars.com.
Cool.
And we're on Facebook and on Twitter. It's a lot. It just
social
seems
media
like it's a lot.
Yeah, there's a ton.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, but it's been a great way to stay connected, both
Sure.
with fans and venues, and
Yeah.
it's a great way to, advertise and get the word out. So.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming up. Or
Yeah.
coming
Thanks
for
down, I
having
guess
us.
it would be in your case,
Yeah.
wouldn't it?
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was fun.
This was fun. And maybe when you get that new CD out, come back in and we'll chat about that.
Love
Because
to.
every
Love to.
CD is a process, isn't it?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it
Yeah.
is.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching this show. And make sure you check out their content at the end while we run the credits. Make sure you pay attention to the credits. Go visit their website. Connect with them on Facebook. Make sure you like, you share, you subscribe to this program. Support these local artists. So important. And check out their music. It's good stuff. And stick around to listen to Yellow Lines. I'm Michael Hartsock. Thanks for watching Futurartist Records Presents.
I told you you were my best friend before I realized I was in it over.